All right, so we are back. Final installment here. We're just let's talk to Jonathan about his part in this album, and obviously you were happy when you heard when Annika mentioned you and Nick chose you. Um, what was that like? What was the call or the email, or how did you guys get together that way?
I don't remember like really exactly. I know Annika told me something, and then I don't know, Nick, if you wrote me or something, but I do remember
Yeah, I did. I
after,
think I probably sent some kind of groveling email saying, "Oh, please work with me."
right. But I have something in my head like I don't know if it was already before or after your email, but Annika told me, and I do before I do the recording, or I want to check who what music
Yeah,
is it,
you need to do your research. Who is this? Who is this person? Yeah, of course you do.
right?
Hmm.
And I didn't know of you, Nick.
Nobody
But
does. It's fine.
well, they should actually. Because I love the music from beginning, and I saw a really deep artist, guitar player. Also, I was really shocked by the fact that you are in both world, like in this more jazz fusiony thing, but also in classical music, and
Hmm.
I was really amazed, and
Hmm.
composition wise, playing wise, this was really nice. And then of course I was a big honor to be part of the recording, and it was really nice also to work with you, Nick. Incredible, like human and beautiful and really nice.
Very kind. It's mutual. I mean, I mean, I think we kind of hit it off, didn't we? From the moment we met, we were kind of kindred spirits, I think, in musically in lots of ways, and I think
Right.
that we had so much in common, and it just felt a very natural partnership musically.
Yes.
I felt anyway, to me, and also,
Yes.
when Jonathan just kind of just instinctively just knew what to do with the charts. Um, he heard the tracks, had the charts, and off he went, and everything he played and came back with was just fantastic, and we never had to question any of it really. It was absolutely wonderful, so great when that happens. And of course, then you've got Annika as well. I mean, Jonathan's so used to working with Annika all the time, playing live and recording, that
Yes.
you just know where to put the beats, man.
Yeah, and you're
which
playing,
all which really helps.
but definitely, but you're playing with the guy that was chosen by Steve Hackett's brother. And I go way back with Genesis, as you can see. And Steve even mentioned Brother John on The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. He was talking about his brother.
Mm.
And who does your brother pick to be a guitarist when your brother is one of the greatest guitarists? So to me, that, the minute I heard Nick Fletcher, I was like, I got to talk to this guy. So that connection is, and then he plays in that band as well. So, have you played with Steve in any of his shows or anything, John? I mean,
Have I,
Nick.
pl- have I? Yeah, yeah. I've done a couple of things with Steve. Yeah, um,
I know you just
his
got done.
band, but I have worked with him. Yeah, on a couple of things.
What types of work have you done? And then,
Well, we did an acoustic show
oh,
when Steve played. We both played acoustic stuff, and John played flute, and we did a trio thing. And also he joined John's band, and we did a gig together a few years ago, which was
and
fun.
you just got done seeing him live. You want to just
Yeah, so I went to see Steve in Manchester last week. I was hoping to get to the Albert Hall, but I couldn't get a ticket for that one. But I went to see him in Manchester, that was great. Yeah, it was a good gig last Sunday, and John was playing there as well. So that was interesting to hear John playing again with Steve. So it was really good.
So you're connecting Jonathan with some unbelievable talent, and that's got to feel good. Yeah, it's got to feel good to be a part of that.
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we playing with, you know, when I got to be able to play with Annika, it was a dream come true, because I saw Annika play with Jeff Beck. I've always been a huge fan of Jeff Beck's, and you know, getting to see Annika work with him was just one of those moments where she was just unbelievably good. Well, Jonathan would obviously back me up on that. She is just an astounding drummer, and not only she's an astounding technical player, but she has her own sort of language on the drum kit, which I find quite unique. The way she uses her cymbals, the way she uses her fills, everything she does, it's like she has a musical personality on the kit, and there aren't that many drummers I think who have got that. You know, there's only a handful of people that I can think of that you can tell when they play that who it is behind the kit, and I think Annika is one of them. So a real privilege to be able to work with her, absolute privilege. And then of course, then to have Jonathan as well. I mean, Caroline and myself were just like, wow, this has got to be done. We've got to do this. I was a bit sort of. I thought, well, I'm going to have to up my game a bit, working with these guys. But that's always
good.
You
have a challenge. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. You never develop your playing or your skills or your writing unless you're challenged and stretched. And so to be able to play with Annika and Jonathan, and of course, keyboard player Jan Gunnar. Jan Gunnar is essentially actually he's a pianist. You know, he's a fabulous pianist. But his background was through progressive rock when he was younger, and then he did a lot of jazz fusion stuff as well. So he plays lots. And on this album, he didn't play any piano. He just played all the keyboard parts on 4 tracks. And he's a fantastic talent.
I hear a lot of Hammond sounds. Is that it? Or
yeah. Okay. All the Hammond sounds. Am I right, Caroline, in saying that all the Hammond sounds on this were him? I know on the last album you played some Hammond parts, but I think on this album I think it was mainly Jan Gunnar.
Yeah, I think
right
so.
in that?
Yeah,
I think so.
And all of it was. I commented in my review. I think that loved all of it. Brought back a lot of great memories, and as well as led me down a new path. So
yeah. Well, I mean, he's played with some great players. I mean, he's played and he's recorded with Mike Stern, who's one of the ex Miles Davis guitar player. I mean, he's just like
can't get
Mike Stern is just like from my point of view, he's one of the all-time greats. He also played with Pat Metheny.
Wow.
And he's played with Jan Ackerman as well. So he's and when he played with Jan, he did all the sort of Hammond parts that he would have played in Focus, you know. So he's very adept, as well as being a great pianist in jazz and classical music. He's very adept at playing all this stuff that I asked him to play. He knew exactly what to do and bring to the table, which is great. You know. So to play with all these guys was just like astounding for me. It was just brilliant, and the fact that they wanted to do it as well was just delightful.
All right. Any other tracks you wanted to talk about? I like the title of "Sitting in the Sunboat," but tell us a little bit about that. How that title evolved, and because it's well, go ahead.
Well, there was a couple of tracks on the album where Caroline challenged me on the titles, and she said, "I don't think it should be called that. I think we should swap those titles round."
I wasn't that didactic about it, can I just say? I said it was more of a suggestion rather than a
suggestion.
Yeah.
It was a good suggestion, and it made a lot of sense. But I think my thinking on it was probably a little bit more obtuse, whereas Caroline was thinking more in probably a more literal take on the music, and I was thinking probably coming at it from a different angle. But that particular track, is that one that you really liked, Mark? Is that why you cited that?
It's good. No, just the title, because usually now I'm getting out on the edge here. Usually your
Right.
titles are just explosive. That one, I was like, what was he thinking? And I want to find out, what were you thinking?
Well, there's a couple of titles tracks on the album which come from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So if
Oh,
you've ever
okay.
read the Egyptian Book of the Dead,
I haven't read it, but I know what you're talking about.
there's a couple of titles that come out of that. Now, Sitting in the Sunboat was one of them, and Crossing
That's
the
what I
Sacred
missed.
Threshold was another as well. Yeah, it's not exactly light bedtime reading, but it's interesting stuff.
No.
But it fits into my whole sort of concept of spirituality and philosophy and what have you. And that's where the title came from. Actually, it is actually in that book.
Okay.
And it just felt appropriate for me to do that. And the other one, Crossing the Sacred Threshold, is one that actually Caroline thought maybe could have been called Sitting in the Sunboat, because it's a really bright, upbeat, kind of a piece of music that comes near the end of the album. But my take on it was that it was Crossing the Sacred Threshold was coming to a place of redemption, and
well, and then you have To Hear the Angels Sing right after it. That one,
and
that
kind
one
of
made
makes
sense. But,
yeah.
Thanks for the explanation on the Sitting in the Sunboat. And then the other one, you said Joy Turning into Sorrow. Is that the one from the Book of the Dead?
No, that funny enough, that's the classical guitar piece that I put on. It's the first time I've included a classical guitar piece, so I wrote it especially for this album. It just felt like there needed to be a little interlude. We opened with two really quite big, intense tracks, which there's a lot of soloing. They're quite frenetic, and there's a lot of interaction, interplay for all the musicians, and some of the harmonic movements are quite convoluted. It needed something to rest before we went into the next big track. And I thought, well, I'm going to put a classical piece in there and see how it goes. And the reason it's called Joy Turning into Sorrow, because Caroline said, well, it doesn't sound very sorrowful. It didn't sound very joyful.
No, it didn't.
No, but the thing is, in the context of the album, that the first two tracks are very upbeat, and quite joyous. And then we've got this track which is a bit downbeat.
Slow it down.
Is more melancholic. So the Joy Turning into Sorrow makes sense in relation to what's gone before. In and of itself, it doesn't make any sense, which is what Caroline pointed out.
Let's hear her perspective.
Well, I think he's basically said it. I mean, part of our working relationship is I do feel that I can, ask these questions that if I'd been booked as a producer with an artist I wasn't quite so familiar with, I probably wouldn't be quite so direct in my challenging of it. But, because I think Nick is very good at allowing people in, he gave me permission in a way to offer another perspective on certain things. And, I think what I've learned as being a producer, I've been a producer now for about 20 years, is that I'd rather ask the difficult questions in situ than get to the end of the album and it's all out. And then you're like, oh, I really wish we'd done this, or I wish I'd done that, or I wish I'd said this, or whatever. So even if it's sometimes a little bit awkward at the time, and I'm going, that doesn't sound like the title to me. You with this piece of music, and I can't engage. There's the juxtaposition between the title and actually the emotion that's coming out of or the feel that's coming out of the track. I don't get it. Obviously there's but you do. And because I trust him enough, and he's very good, if he agrees with me, he'll take my suggestions on board. And if he doesn't, then I know he's got a good enough reason to not take any, to not take it further. Sorry, I'm being distracted. I've got a cat meowing outside the door.
No, I mean the track called "Her Eyes of Azure Blue" is a classic case in point with titles, because I had got a different title for it altogether, a much more cerebral sort of thing. And Caroline said, "I think you're missing a trick here, because that's such a romantic kind of sound, you know." And I went, "Ooh, romance." Ooh.
Oh yeah, he freaked out. It's like, what? Oh no, I'm a man.
I don't do that.
Don't do romance.
Anyway, she kind of like very, very gently persuaded me that it was a good idea, and I'm glad she did, because it was. I think I came up with that title as a result of her directive. So I think it really gelled with the music better than the title I had originally for it. Yeah.
What was it, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I think it was something like "On the Heavenly Sea"
Oh, okay.
from the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
He really likes it.
Yeah, good. Takes me back to the cloud of unknowing, Mark. So
No, that's okay.
yeah.
I absolutely know what you're talking about, but
Yeah.
don't find an interest. But that's okay.
What I think, can I just add something here?
Sure.
What I think Nick has that's quite unique, and I'm going back to what you were saying about how you wish there were more vocals on the album and everything. I think what Nick has, because he's so learned and because he's so well read and whatever, he has this air of mystery and this mystique about the music that he writes and his choice of titles and things. And sometimes I think, if I can be remotely critical, it's not critical, but I look at his strengths, and I think his strengths are in the lines that he carries with his soloing and his harmonic structure. But I don't think his strengths, one of his strengths is songwriting, and it's a completely different discipline to actually write a song that is both singable and engaging in whatever genre, it doesn't matter what kind of genre. And whenever we've done the songs, we've had to work really hard because his melodies are basically his guitar lines. So I'm thinking sometimes, yes, I hear what you're saying, Mark, about you want more explanation about the songs and that if there were some lyrics.
Well, not so much explanation. I mean, that'd be nice
it
too.
makes it an easier journey, but I think it's much
Not
more
that, just
interesting
the
to have the
sound.
mystique. Sorry.
Just to fill out the sound. I mean, yes, he does enough music. Absolutely. It would be, for me, sort of the cream on top of the cake. I mean, you've done
But
this.
I think what Caroline's saying,
that's just me.
it's true. No, it's fine, Mike.
fantastic
I think what Caroline's saying is so true. Is that it's that, like, when as a producer, her role is always to try and find out what is the strength of the artist that she's working with, and what are they best served doing. And I think the point that she's making is that she's realised that that when I present song-based material, it's not my strength. And I think she wants to, make sure that whatever I do plays more to that. So whatever vocal contribution there is, it has to sort of fit in with that idea. The other thing is that also what Caroline's very good at is telling me not to play too many notes, because that's the other guitarist problem, is that guitarists tend to play too many notes. And she's always saying, "It's too many notes." Which is great, because
I don't get me wrong, I like lots of notes and I love virtuosity and I love the technique and I love to be astounded. But equally, when you've got someone who can write the kind of melodies that he can write, it's like I want to hear the melodies, because what makes a track memorable, I mean, it's different for everybody, but what makes a track engaging and memorable and it becomes an earworm quite often is that hook, that melody, that thing that you can't get out of your head. And sometimes he comes out with these incredible lines in his solos, and it's like, if we could just get a few more of those in. I know you're great at playing arpeggios and scales and doing a bit of shredding and all that, and that's fabulous and that's of a genre, but actually when you start to speak with melody, that is when it takes it to another level, and that's what
Mm.
fascinates me, I think, and makes sense of all the other complexity, because suddenly you can go from this really complex moment to this incredible melodic thing where everything opens out, and you've just got this thing, and you get an earworm and you can't get this sound and this melody out of your brain. And
Mm.
you know, to be able to work with someone who's got that capability, you know, that's not your average musician. That's someone who's really well crafted. But it even someone like that can be guided into what, you know, what is going to be your writing as well as just to keep the balance.
Yeah, I mean, all the albums have been getting good reviews and people really like them. And I think the thing, one of the great strengths about creating these albums is the fact that I can work with a producer who I trust, you know, and so we always get as good a performances as we possibly can, because we know that whatever performance is there, it's got to stand the test of time, because it's a recording, it's not a live thing. But going back to what Caroline was saying about virtuosity and also melodic, more simple melodic content, for me is one of the great strengths of Jonathan as well. Is that Jonathan's playing is technically so adept. You know, he's a virtuoso on his instrument. He comes up with some incredible lines. His ability in his ear is just razor sharp. But at the same time, in that track, Her Eyes of Azure Blue, when I said to him, I would like to do a solo, I kind of knew that we were going to get something that was gold, because he's also got this fantastic sense of melody, and it's an intuitive thing. When you listen to the melody, the way he creates in that solo, it's just magic for me. It's just beautiful. It's just a magic moment, because it's a beautiful melodic, crafted solo. And yet the first solo that Jonathan plays on the album, on the opening track, is a real virtuosic thing. You know, you find most people say, is that a bass? How do you play a bass like that? You know, it's incredible. You know, so Jonathan has that ability too, which is why he fits so wonderfully with what I write. It's just great.
Can I just very quickly read you this quote from a brilliant guitarist, acoustic guitarist called John Gomm? I don't know if you've ever come across him. He was talking about Jeff Beck when Jeff Beck died, and he said, virtuosity isn't just about playing really fast or anything you can measure in that competitive way. It's about how you use technique to turn sound into emotion. And Jeff Beck did impossibly detailed and complex things with a guitar, but all in the name of expression, of humanizing the notes. And I think that's how I approach working with Nick. It's about you can do all that fantastic technique, but how do you humanize the notes? And I think there are certain moments in Nick's album where he has really humanized the notes, and they just leap off the CD, and people, you know, are going to engage with it and bring their own, you know, connections with it. And that's for me is like the holy grail of music, to be able to humanize technique, to humanize those notes, to humanize the virtuoso and the talent that these guys have. Annika off the charts, Jonathan off the charts, but they're so good at humanizing their technique, and
exactly.
to be able to be in that environment is just fantastic.
Yeah, because it's almost as if the technique is so good that you don't notice it, because it's so musical, because it's always at the service of the music that's been being crafted, that it's almost that you don't realize how technically adept these guys are, which is why I think the album has really worked so well for me, is because of that, bringing all those elements together. And those, like Caroline said, all these musicians have that great ability to do that, which is great.
And it looks like he absolutely has got to play something.
Are you going to play something, Jonathan, before you go?
No, he's got the guitar there.
He's got work to do. He never stops.
Let's stop talking. Let's play guitar. No, I'm kidding.
If I could, I would, but
it's
not possible to hear.
It's fine.
Oh, that's right. You don't have it plugged in. Okay. We heard it earlier, but okay. All right. Anyone have any other comments or things that I might have missed. We covered, I think, all the songs. And anyone else?
What did you think of the album?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, no,
Yeah, Mark's done a nice review of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
no.
I was just I know about the review, but I was just wondering on a kind of personal level. Obviously, you've heard the previous albums. Was it what you expected? Is it
No,
more of the same, or
he always surprises me. Yeah, no. But I think, and I don't know why it stands out so much. Maybe I just haven't listened to the other two for a while. But that one song, "The Sage," I'll just call it "The Sage" rather than try to repeat
Yeah.
it. But anyway,
we know what you mean.
the Sage song just
Mm.
jumped off the page, and I love the whole album. Nothing wrong with the album; it's great. But that song just really, I don't know. It really moved
Oh,
me.
it's hard.
It
It's hard
just
to say.
really,
Music is so subjective, isn't it?
Mm.
well, yeah.
What one person can hear something and it really sort of like it strikes a chord with them literally, and
Well, no, I
and
listened
others
to
it
the
might
whole
not.
thing, and I was commenting on it and
Mm.
writing notes, and then that one came up and it was like, wait a minute, and I slowed down and I was like, wow.
Okay.
That's
Well, that's
just
good to know.
it was a wow moment for me, I guess.
Great.
And he has had other wow moments I can't remember right off the top of my head from the other albums, but that one just really, whoa.
Great. Well, that's good to know.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, I don't know how to describe it other than that.
No, that's the thing. Music, if we could describe music, we wouldn't need it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we definitely need you guys to keep doing what you're doing. And I don't know how you do it because Nick's talked about this on Facebook, and you guys have all read. There was something in the news here recently about how undervalued you are and how you can't. I don't know how these poor people are making it. I mean, they're virtuosos. They're putting so much effort and work, and I know. I just got done talking to a singer-songwriter, and he basically said it comes from within, and he described it as pain, and I don't think it's always pain, but it's a need to put this on, vinyl, CD, whatever. There's a human need from a musician to do this, and
True.
thank God you guys keep doing it. And I really wish you'd get compensated better so that you could do all the things. And maybe that's the other thing. If you had, that label or that backing, the money, you may be able to do more, than
Cool.
right now. You could get together, you could tour, you could, collaborate with whoever you wanted. So, and then the other, I was talking with the same songwriter. He said, "Yeah, but then with that, Mark, comes all sorts of problems. Well, we want this, and this song. Well, like you said, the song's too long, or you're hitting too long of notes, or and then and the singer's like, okay, I want to change labels. So I mean, it's
well, I don't know how Jonathan would feel about this, but my own personal view on it is, having your own artistic freedom to do what you want is worth more than money.
vital. Yeah.
Yeah, it's vital, because otherwise, what's the point? All you're doing is just producing to order what somebody else is hearing and what they want, and that's generally because they want to generate money. Whereas I want to create music for the sake of creating music, and that is my truth. That is, what I feel. And record labels, it's all great, but there's also that big downside that you've got the bean counters and the suits sitting on your shoulder. And from my point of view, I'd rather do without that if possible.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
What
do you think?
tell us?
Do you think
Can
the
you
same,
tell us a
Jonathan?
little
Do you
bit?
think that? Do you think the same, or do you have a different take on it? Jonathan.
Me?
Yeah. What would you say about that?
No, completely. The artistic freedom, that's
So
what it is about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, music is expression, and I even would differentiate it from music which is made to be liked, right?
Mm.
When I sometimes put the radio on, I hear so much of the same motives, and I think like the same goal of being liked, right? And I mean, at some point, I also, of course, listen and enjoy, but on a deeper level, I would like to hear artists like Unique and I've a lot of more I'm following where they express themselves and they say what they feel, what needs to be said, and also not like only beautiful things and simple things we were speaking about. I also like the if somebody is like really true and complex, and we need it. We need it for sure.
Let me just ask you, because we're running out of time. Nick, how many songs do you get together for the next album? I mean, it's hard to talk about a next album when you're talking about this one. And then I wanted to do the same thing with Jonathan. How soon are we talking? 2026 or further? Nick.
Well, I've got about 4 or 5 pieces on the go at the moment. So I'm always, because I'm always writing. That's what I do. It's what my motivating force in life is, writing more than anything.
And is this a new trilogy or just a?
No. The next thing will just be a standalone album. I've already mentioned to Jonathan if he would be interested in working on it, and I'm very grateful to hear that he's up for doing something.
Sure.
Obviously, it all depends on the timing of these things, because I would obviously like to work with both Jonathan and Annika, but it's whether or not Annika's available and she has the time. I don't know, but hopefully she will. Yeah.
So there is
whether
some
it's next year or the year after, I don't know, but we will definitely start recording in the new year at some point. Yeah.
All right, and it sounds like this is a cohesive, at least the 3 of you, which that's good if that keeps going. Jonathan, how about you? Do you have some projects underway and completing soon?
I thought Frozen.
We'll come back. We're just
he's here. It's okay.
Yeah, sure. I'm about also to release my own music, and I recorded with some marvelous musicians, Bodek Janke and Christian Randalu, and I also went to Poland to record the string quartet, Atom String Quartet.
Wow.
And yeah, and it's not taking that long anymore, because I have been working a few years for it.
What genre?
This is difficult because I have the Spanish side with flamenco. There's this rhythmical thing, like Tigran Hamasyan kind of at some point, and still jazz, and also like more classical with the strings, and it's a wild mixture, I would say.
Well, if you're interested, I'll pass along my email. I would love to hear it and love to review it.
Thanks. Sure. Of course.
Again, this is another reason why it's great to work with people like Jonathan, because they're so open-minded. Jonathan's just working with people who don't just put music in boxes, but when you can't express what it is that you do because it encompasses so much, it's really important. And for me, that when I was younger, the whole progressive rock scene was part of that. Where you could just mix things up, and it wasn't necessarily important to be able to say whether it's this, that, or the other. We just, as artists, as musicians, we just take what we hear and what we enjoy, and we fuse it together, and whatever comes out. And again, that's something that record companies don't like, because then they're out of control. Then they don't know exactly what they're going to get. They don't like that.
No, they don't. No, it's a business model, and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
they're trying to.
Well, and
How do
record companies are all about entertainment and sales, and yet what you guys are talking about is art, and
Yeah.
that's very difficult to put, a price on that.
Quantify it. Yes. Yeah. It is.
Caroline, what are you working on?
I'm working on some tracks. Songwriting couple who live in Palma in Mallorca. They're English, but they're out there at the moment, and they're just doing standalone tracks, releasing them every few months, basically. So they send me a demo, and then I do all the arrangements and make it into a nice little song for them, and then they put it out to their social media and stuff. So yeah, so I'm working on that at the moment.
And
Caroline
probably
is a mastering engineer. She does a lot of mastering for people, not just recording. So she will take the finished article and master it for a release. And there's quite a number of people around at the moment who are kind of starting to take a lot more notice of Caroline's work because of her work with me, and wanting to ask her to do stuff. And
are you still with the label, or you're independently doing all this?
Yeah, independent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Great. Well, say your website or something real quick before it cuts off.
Okay, SCN Media. You can find me on scnmedia.co.uk.